Good morning, Year 4. Like last week, today I'm going to finish reading the text to you. As I read, I want you to think about some of the techniques we've discussed that the author and illustrator have used throughout the text and how they make you feel as a reader. Enjoy. This afternoon, we stood silently and watched as the last two convict ships sailed out of the bay. Our last hope of returning to England was gone. I saw Mr. Brady writing in his journal after the ships left. The vegetable crops have failed. There is some panic that the rest of the food will run out soon. We are not able to catch enough fish or animals to feed everyone. We arrived here with over 500 cows, sheep, horses, pigs, geese and chickens, most of which have died or wandered off into the bush. Governor Phillip has sent HMS Sirius to the Cape of Good Hope for food, but the journey will take 6 months or more. There has been trouble between the convicts and natives lately. It's getting serious, and Governor Phillip wants the problem resolved. The winter winds and rain have now given way to warm days and sunshine. Wildflowers are growing around the bay, and brightly coloured birds flitter everywhere. There is not enough food for everyone, so I've been ordered to collect mussels from the bay each day, and Molly has to collect berries in the forest. When she does, she feels the natives are watching, even though she can't see them. It's Christmas Day now, but no one is celebrating because there is hardly any food to eat. After Christmas, the Marines made us work even harder in the summer heat, but the weather is finally starting to cool down. A few days ago, when we went to bed, I noticed Molly was a bit restless. She began to cry and I held her tight until the dawn sunlight shone through the flap of the tent. I made Molly stay in the tent when I went to work each morning. There are now so many sick with dysentery and scurvy that there is no place to put them all. The lack of fresh fruit and vegetables means that this outbreak of scurvy will only get worse. I have been giving many of the sick some of the local berries or sarsaparilla vine leaves boiled in water, which the natives use. It seems to help, but there is just not enough of it to treat everyone. To add to our problems, there has recently been an outbreak of smallpox, mainly amongst the natives. Many have died and we are treating others behind the hospital. The outlook for them is rather grim, I'm afraid. After work today, I hurried home through the rain and found Molly curled up on the bed crying. Her breathing was short and fast, and there were dark blotches on her skin. "Help me," I yelled to anyone who could hear, but no one came. I put my arms around Molly and struggled up the hill with her to the hospital. When I got there, the surgeon looked at Molly and said there was nothing he could do for her. He told me to put her on the ground outside the tent. He gave me some berries for Molly, but she was so weak she couldn't swallow and just lay there with tears in her eyes. I gently stroked her forehead and told her the story that she had told me that night in the tent. It was the story about her ma and how she loved her. Molly gave me a sad little smile, hugged the rag doll between us and closed her eyes. Through my tears I whispered, "I'll never forget you, my little angel." I stood on the headland and watched as HMS Sirius sailed back into Sydney Cove. It would have food and medicine on board, and everyone was waving and cheering as they ran down to the dock to meet it. I didn't cheer or wave. I just wiped the tears from my eyes as I thought of little Molly, laughing and tumbling through the long grass on the hill. It was a miracle that so many convicts survived that terrible journey from England, but on arrival at Sydney Cove they faced hardships never dreamed of. Many died either from disease or starvation. No one really knows how smallpox came to the little colony, but it was a disease that killed many, mainly Aboriginal people. Scurvy, however, was a disease caused by a lack of fresh fruit and vegetables. It was 2 years before the first crops were successful, and a triumph of the human spirit that the little colony at last prevailed. Elizabeth Hayward, the inspiration for this story, was the youngest female convict with the First Fleet. She was strong-willed, resilient, and managed to survive those first precarious years at Sydney Cove. She had several children and eventually settled in Van Diemen's Land, now Tasmania. Elizabeth lived to be 63 years old.